The assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March 44 BC was a watershed moment. Senators, believing they were saving the Republic, plunged Rome into chaos. The Senate chamber, once a symbol of Roman authority, became the stage for a brutal act. Many hoped Caesar's death would mean a return to the old ways, a restoration of the Senate's power. But the Republic they yearned for was already fading, replaced by a new world order. The assassination, instead of reinvigorating the Senate, triggered a power vacuum that would last for years. The immediate aftermath saw confusion and fear grip the city. Senators, including Brutus and Cassius, the figureheads of the assassination, found themselves hailed as heroes by some, villains by others. The populace, loyal to Caesar, was angered. Rome was on a precipice, and the Senate, divided and uncertain, struggled to assert control. The ideals that had led to Caesar's death now seemed distant, overshadowed by the reality of his bloody end. The Senate, once a beacon of stability, had become a symbol of the Republic's fragility. Caesar's death did not extinguish his influence. His name, his legacy, loomed large over the Senate. Two distinct factions emerged, those who had supported Caesar and those who had opposed him. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, sought to claim his mantle, rallying Caesar's veterans and supporters to his side. The Senate, deeply suspicious of Antony's ambitions, sought to curb his power. Cicero, the renowned orator and staunch defender of the Republic, emerged as a key figure in this struggle, using his eloquence to denounce Antony and rally support for the Senate. The Senate's internal divisions, however, hampered its efforts. Some senators, recognizing Antony's military might, favored appeasement. Others, fueled by fear and principle, advocated for open confrontation. This internal discord played into Antony's hands, allowing him to exploit the Senate's weakness and further his own ambitions. The Senate, once the embodiment of Roman unity, was now riven by suspicion and rivalry. The ghost of Caesar haunted its chambers, a constant reminder of the Republic's uncertain future. Into this maelstrom stepped Octavian, Caesar's great-nephew and adopted heir. Though young and inexperienced, Octavian possessed a shrewd political mind and a ruthless streak. He skillfully exploited the Senate's divisions, playing Antony and the Senate against each other. He cultivated an image of himself as Caesar's true heir, appealing to the loyalty of his legions and the Roman people. The Senate, initially dismissive of the young man, soon realized the threat he posed. Octavian, however, understood the importance of the Senate. He needed its legitimacy to secure his position. He carefully cultivated alliances within the Senate, offering positions of power and influence in exchange for support. He presented himself not as a dictator, but as a restorer of order, a protector of Roman tradition. This strategy proved successful. Gradually, the Senate, weary of conflict and recognizing Octavian's growing power, began to align itself with the young heir. The Republic, it seemed, was entering a new phase, one where the Senate would play a different but not insignificant role. With Antony defeated and Octavian firmly in control, a new era dawned for Rome, the age of Augustus. Octavian, now granted the title Augustus, revered one, understood the importance of appearances. He maintained the facade of the Republic, preserving the Senate as a seemingly independent body. He initiated a series of reforms aimed at streamlining the Senate's operations and enhancing its prestige. These reforms, however, masked a more profound shift in the balance of power. Augustus reduced the size of the Senate, removing unqualified or corrupt members, and imposed stricter guidelines for membership. He granted the Senate authority over certain provinces and bestowed upon senators important administrative and religious roles. These measures, while presented as reforms, were in reality a way for Augustus to consolidate his control. By appearing to empower the Senate, Augustus could more effectively direct its actions, ensuring its loyalty and minimizing opposition. The Senate, outwardly revitalized, remained under the watchful eye of the emperor. The reign of Augustus marked the beginning of the Principate, a new system of government that effectively masked one-man rule under the veneer of republican institutions. The Senate, while retaining its outward form and some degree of autonomy, became increasingly subordinate to the emperor. Augustus, through a combination of political acumen and military might, established a precedent that his successors would follow. The emperor held the true power in Rome. The Senate, however, remained a vital part of this new order. It served as a source of legitimacy for the emperors, providing a veneer of republican respectability to their rule. Senators, drawn from the Roman elite, possessed wealth, influence, and administrative expertise that were invaluable to the emperors. The Senate provided a pool of talented individuals to fill important administrative and military posts throughout the empire. It served as a sounding board for imperial policies and a platform for debate, albeit a carefully controlled one. Senators and emperors had to perform a delicate dance. The relationship between the Senate and the emperor during the Principate was a complex and often fraught one. Emperors relied on the Senate's cooperation and legitimacy, but remained wary of its potential to challenge their authority. Senators, for their part, had to navigate a delicate path, balancing their own ambitions and principles against the need to accommodate the emperor's wishes. Open defiance could be met with swift and brutal reprisal, as several emperors demonstrated a willingness to eliminate rivals, real or imagined. The reigns of Tiberius, Caligula, and Nero, for example, were marked by periods of tension and outright hostility between the emperor and the Senate. Tiberius, suspicious and reclusive, viewed the Senate with deep distrust, preferring to rule through a small circle of advisers. Caligula's erratic behavior and tyrannical excesses alienated even his supporters within the Senate. Nero's extravagance and cruelty led to open rebellion and his eventual downfall. These examples highlight the precarious position of the Senate under the Principate. Despite the risks, the Senate never entirely abandoned its role as a check on imperial power. While open defiance was rare, senators found subtler ways to express their disapproval or influence imperial policy. They could delay or obstruct legislation, voice dissent through speeches and writings, or even engage in passive resistance. These acts of defiance, however, came at a price. Emperors, jealous of their power and often paranoid, kept a close watch on the Senate. Informers and spies were commonplace, and even the slightest hint of disloyalty could be met with harsh punishment. The reigns of Domitian and Commodus, in particular, saw a marked increase in the persecution of senators accused of treason or disloyalty. This atmosphere of fear and suspicion cast a long shadow over the Senate, discouraging dissent and fostering an environment of compliance. Despite its diminished role under the Principate, the Roman Senate left an indelible mark on the empire and beyond. The Senate for centuries had served as the guardian of Roman law and tradition. It had overseen Rome's expansion from a small city-state to a vast empire. Its members, drawn from the Roman elite, had shaped the course of Roman history through their decisions and actions. Even in its diminished state, the Senate remained a symbol of Roman authority and continuity. Its decrees, though often subject to imperial approval, carried the weight of tradition and law. Its members, despite the risks, continued to play an active role in the governance of the empire, providing administrative expertise and leadership. The Senate's legacy, therefore, extends far beyond its political power. It represents the endurance of Roman institutions, the importance of law and order, and the enduring influence of Roman culture on Western civilization. The assassination of Caesar, intended to restore the Senate's authority, ironically hastened its decline. The Senate, caught in the maelstrom of the late Republic, struggled to maintain its grip on power. The rise of Augustus and the establishment of the Principate marked a turning point. The Senate, while retaining its outward form and some degree of influence, became increasingly subservient to the emperor, yet it remained a vital part of the Roman state, providing legitimacy, expertise, and a veneer of republican tradition to the empire. The Senate's story during this era is a testament to its adaptability, its endurance, and its enduring legacy in the face of profound political change.